In this video, we're going over single number 2. So give an integer array nums where every element appears 3 times except for 1, which appear exactly once. Find the single element and return it. So in our first example, we're giving 2, 2, 3, 2, and then 2 appears 3 times. And so a single number is just 3, so we return 3. Let's go over the thought process. We will need a way to keep track of each element and also its associated frequency. We can create a hash map to keep track of elements and frequency. So we map the elements to its frequency. Then the elements with a frequency of 1 will be our results. Now let's go over the pseudocode. So we're going to create a hash map to keep track of each element and frequency. Then we're going to iterate through the elements of the input array denoted as x. We're going to increment frequency of x inside map. Now we want to iterate through the keys of the map to find the elements with a frequency of 1. So we iterate through the keys of map denoted as x. If map.getX, this means if the frequency of x is equal to 1, then we can just return x. If we have failed to find a single number, we can return -1. Now let's go over time and space complexity. For the time complexity is O of n, or is O of n plus n. Is O of n, where n is the length of the input array. The first one is finding frequency of elements. Then the next one is finding the single number. Let's go over its space complexity. The space complexity is O of n, where n is the length of the input array. Or we can say n divided by 3, which is still O of n. This case too, because we're just iterating through the keys. So, but the time complexity stays the same. In this case is our map. Let's go over the code. So we'll first create a hash map to keep track of the frequency of elements. Get elements and frequency, and then we're going to return a single number, pass in our map. We'll first create a hash map to keep track of element and frequency. Then we can iterate. We're going to create our map first. Then we're going to iterate through the elements inside the input array. Increment the frequency. If number is not inside the map yet, we're going to default it to a value of 0, which basically means the frequency of 0. Then we're going to increment it by 1. Then we can return map. We don't need to create this one, we can just iterate through. So we'll iterate through the keys of map. Then if map.getX is equal to 1, then we can just return x. We're going to return -1 if we have failed to find a single number. Let me know if any questions in the comment section below.